Okay. Hello?
I'm here.
Oh, hi. Hey, we're
Just
live. We're back. Hey, folks. Did you forget about us?
see, we weren't gone that long here.
Let's see. Let me just, all right. Looks like we're good on the timeout page. Let me share it to our page. I was teasing you before we actually went live that we've aged since our first show.
I'm here.
Oh, hi. Hey. Am I hearing
There we
myself?
go. There we go. I think we're all up and running.
Before we actually went live that we've aged since our first show.
I don't want to ever talk about age.
Am I hearing myself?
There we go. I think we're all up.
All right.
It might be me.
I'm hearing myself on.
No, it's off.
Okay.
Why is that coming up? Wait a minute. What's going on with this?
I know you don't want to talk about age. It's clear that you made that point. Yeah, so 7 o'clock on a Sunday night. Oh my goodness.
The journalist friend of mine, Eric Cohen.
All right, we're good
Famous
here.
DJ. You better tell Veronica all about your DJ career and how you would be playing her records if we still had a jazz program.
Yeah, maybe I'll just. Does she know Does she know about my previous life?
I don't know. I think you should tell her about it.
Maybe I'll tell her I was involved in politics, which she might.
I think
No, I will.
She stays out of that.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, well, I should share this for when she comes on, but I mean, Veronica Swift didn't really blast onto the scene until after I was out of radio. So I never had the good fortune of playing her recording. So, but we are going to hear.
And everything about her is astounding, and I can't wait for her to
Yeah.
come on. And I know our viewers are going to really, really enjoy this. This is really special.
Well, we're going to give Veronica plenty of time. Let's talk about us.
Okay.
Tell me about you. We haven't spoken since that magnificent show where who was our guest 2 weeks ago? Lovely lady. Oh yes, it was Nancy Kelly. We had a blast of a time listening back to and watching back to your recording session at Subcat Studios. But last weekend we took off for Labor Day, and how is it already the 13th of September, Nancy? My goodness.
I don't know. Like, it just flies by. It's alarming. And then on the other hand, I try not to focus on that, because
Right.
I want to enjoy every beautiful day. This has been an extraordinarily beautiful summer.
Yeah, it has, and
It's just so beautiful, and I've gotten so many wonderful walks in. The one good thing about the darn COVID thing, if there is anything good about it, is I'm home, I'm exercising, I'm peaceful most of the time. It's really been pretty good.
You look fantastic, and yeah, no, I've been trying to get walks in. Of course, it's starting to get dark. I mean, we used to start these shows. Well, we would start them now. I would not have any lights on because even when we finished, it would still be sunny out. And now,
yeah, on top of it, it looks like a storm is coming. As you know, I live on Little Sodas Bay. It really looks very scary out there.
Yeah. But summer in Sodus Bay is coming to a close. Yeah.
It is.
I
don't know. Don't you like the fall though? I love it.
I do enjoy the fall. I do. I would like to enjoy some fall before we start getting into the last season of the year. I mean, sometimes we go from summer and it seems like it's a very quick fall sometimes. But I'd like to enjoy the next couple of months and the leaves falling and the temperatures not getting too chilly. I noticed you don't even have your air conditioning running this week.
No, I don't have any windows open because I got those damn bees.
Yeah, I know.
I have like this. I got rid of one nest on one side. When you live in a 200-year-old house, you're going to have unwelcome visitors from time to time.
Is that how old your
My house was built in the late 1800s, yes. This house that I'm in on Little Sodus Bay on Lake Ontario was several things. It has a wonderful history. It was the portmaster's house. So where I live, the trains would come from New York City. Did I ever tell you this?
No, but we've got 5 minutes before we bring up Veronica in. So
the trains would come from New York City, and they would take the blocked ice from this water in front of my house down to the residence and for the ice boxes in New York City. How cool is that?
Wow.
Well, the house I'm in was the portmaster's house, and he oversaw that.
The portmaster's house.
Isn't that cool?
And I actually like to drink port wine. It's too sweet for you, though. No, yeah, I know.
I'll stick with my Sauvignon Blanc.
You have your... Oh, I just want to make sure. Well, I know that we did have a show where you freaked out and did not have your wine.
And I had to get up.
During the... Yeah, I forget which show it was, but it was
I know somebody right now that's laughing.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Donna Pacini. Hi. Let's see. Andy Calabrese. Hey, Andy.
Jonathan Knapp, always here for us. Jane Downs, Jesse Kelman, Donna's with us. Yeah.
My students would come on to see Veronica.
Yeah, no, this is exciting. We should mention before we bring her on. I mean, you had reached out to Veronica. Gosh. It was over a month ago, and I remember getting the text message from you saying, reached out to Veronica, and she's down. She wants to do it.
I'm thrilled with all the people. And I think people being home, and those of us that are show business people, well, we should wait to talk about this with Veronica, because it's a big thing to us. We miss being performers. We miss being in the public and in the public eye, and we like that. We all enjoy that very much. So,
yeah, I'm not a show. That's the thing, is that you and Veronica are going to get into talking about show business, and then I'm not a showbiz guy. I'm a journalist, Nancy.
I know, and a very good one.
Thank you. And that's the news for tonight. I'm just kidding.
Wait till we have my friend John on. Wait till he does his DJ voice for you.
Does John has that was my I don't
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that when he comes on.
I don't people
you're kind of
stuck in my serious news voice all show.
Well, I think what
did you say
right now is I think I should intro Veronica with this wonderful video that I pulled up. This is a performance that she did at WBGO in New York.
Outstanding. Let's let people know that is like the premier.
It's
jazz station in the country, and so out of Newark, New Jersey, and I think this will be a great, nice little lead-in for Veronica. I hope she gets to hear.
I don't know if she's looking. Maybe, hopefully, her mom is, and they're watching somewhere together.
Yes, yes.
Let's bring her on with some of this wonderful. I just want everybody to realize how splendidly talented and just fabulous this young lady is. She has really brought the jazz world back alive, in her
she has.
way. Let me see if I can share this and play it.
Let's do this. We're gonna do one from the new record. This is a song called "I'm Hip, I'm No Square. I'm alert, I'm awake, I'm aware. I am always on the scene, making the rounds, digging the sounds. I read Playboy magazine, I'm so hip. I dig, I'm in step. When it was hip to be hip, I was hip.
I heard it, girl.
I don't blow, but I'm a fan. Look at me swing, ring-a-ding-ding. I even call my girlfriend man, I'm so hip. Now every Saturday night, with my suit buttoned tight and my suede's on, I'm getting my kicks. Yes, I'm watching Netflix with my shades on. Sound too much, I'm a gas. I am anything but middle class. When I hang around the band, popping my thumbs, digging the drums. Squares don't seem to understand why I flip. They're not hip, like I'm hip. Do, 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 do. Yes, I'm hip, I'm alive. I enjoy any joint with its jive. I'm on top of every trend. Look at me go, Vodiodo. Lady Gaga knows my friend, I'm so hip. Yes, I'm hip, but not weird. Like you notice, I don't wear a beard. Beards were in, but now they're out. Sorry, man. Nay, had the day, now they're passé. Just ask me if you're in doubt, cause I'm hip. Now whatever the fads and whatever the ads say, it's Needsville. I'm keeping abreast. Yes, I'm in front of the rest with Elitesville. Cause I'm cool as a kook. I'm a car, I'm a cat, I'm a kook. I get so much out of life. Really I do. Scuba-doo-boo. One more time, play Mac the knife. Let her rip. Cause I'm hip like you're hip. We're all hip. Watch us flip, yeah. Cause he's hip. Watch him flip. Let her rip. Cause we're hip. Like he's hip, cause I'm hip, like you're hip, we're all hip, watch us rip, cause I'm hip, scuba-doo-ba-doo-doo, did-and-doo, did-and-doo-ba-doo-doo.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah. She is a hip young lady.
Look at this beautiful picture she has up there.
Uh-oh.
You're sideways, hon.
Oh my God.
Well, you guys are all landscape, so I've turned mine sideways. How do I?
I don't know. Are you on your phone? There you go. Oh.
Oh, these phones drive me nuts.
All right. I mean, we can. I'm happy to.
We can all go sideways with
Yeah.
you.
No,
Hi. Oh, there we go. Oh, you were just. I thought.
Coming.
There you
Oh,
go.
there we go.
you guys are all landscape though, so I'm like.
You're fine.
Oh, now we're beautiful. We're good.
You're fine. We'd rather see you this way than sideways.
I see you've gotten your technical assistant there helping out.
Yes, my friend Matt.
Hi, Matt. We see
Hi, Matt.
pictures of you all
You
the
guys are
time.
my
We see you guys hiking all over the place. Am I right about that?
All right. That's nice.
I'm a hiker.
Yeah. So young and so full of energy. Well, welcome. We're so
Thank you
excited.
so much for having me.
Oh, we're so excited. I am
I
so.
miss hearing you, Nancy.
Huh?
I miss hearing you.
Well, I miss hearing you. It's a sad thing. We'll be back.
I know.
We'll be back. Have you talked to Johnny at all? Of course you have.
Yeah, here and there.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to go see him though.
No. Well, you're in, if we can, you are in.
Virginia, technically. I'm in New York right now today, but
Are you
I'm
really?
Yeah, I'm here visiting for the week.
So you still hold an apartment there?
My friend Matt Baker has a spare room and I come and stay here. Lets me stay here.
That's sweet.
Very nice.
Yeah.
That's
Good guy.
sweet. That makes it nice. So I figure you guys, I know you and your mother had a place there for quite a while, but I think when COVID hit, did you decide to go back to Virginia?
I've actually been living in Virginia for the past 2 years.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's where I live. I don't like living in the city.
Isn't
of
that
course you-
interesting? Would you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I mean, I grew up on a cow farm in Virginia. I'm a country girl and mountains. I had mountains growing up, and also because my lifestyle in a normal, of course, world, my lifestyle is so city, hustle, bustle, here, there. You guys know how it is. And I can't create in that space. I need peace and quiet. I need nature, which is, I was an only child walking around on the farm, 250-acre cow farm in the mountains. So that's where I pull inspiration from.
I so am with you on that, because I too grew up. I call myself rurban, which is a combination
I
of
like that.
rural and urban.
I'm gonna use that.
Yeah, go ahead. It's like, because we do our work in the cities, but I'm the same way. I want to come back. I'm up on a little bay in upstate New York, and it's peaceful. I don't have to deal with anybody and their anger and their need to get somewhere in a flippin' hurry.
And be somebody.
Oh, the be somebody thing is hard. Yeah. But
I think-
you and I can be famous in our towns.
I don't even want to be famous. I just like to sit and hide away in my little house.
I do the same thing. I'm sorry, Eric.
No, please.
You
You got
something very important. I need to introduce you to Eric Cohen.
Hi, Eric.
Tell Veronica how you and I know each other, and a little bit about your past.
Well, it's a checkered past if we want to go there. No, actually, no, Nancy and I got to meet Nancy, I don't know, probably 25 years ago, right?
Well, I'm old, so it probably was a long time.
Right around when Veronica was first coming into the world.
Learning to cat sing, probably.
And no, the first time I heard Nancy, I just, I knew that this was a special voice, a special woman. And, I come from a jazz background myself. My dad happens to be a jazz pianist. I think you know a little something about dads as jazz pianists, Veronica.
Yeah. Sorry, someone was calling me. I'm turning up my.
That always happens.
It's okay.
That always happens.
Anyway, and so I just loved seeing Nancy, not just as a Nancy's more than just a singer. I mean, she truly is.
Well, I wasn't looking for some accolades here. I just wanted her to know about what you do and how we met.
Well, we've had a great friendship for 25 years, and for me personally, I worked in jazz radio for the same amount of time for our jazz station up here, WAER, and unfortunately, I left the station in 2017, so I really didn't get a chance to play. I would have loved to have played Confessions.
That's where I wanted to get. Yes.
But as a jazz programmer, unlike you ladies who have been on stage as performers, I have grown to respect this music so much. And whenever somebody fresh and vibrant and new comes on the scene, it's just such it's so gratifying for this industry. And so someone like you makes me want to get back into radio and be able to play your music and get a chance to interview you. But now that we have this forum, I love the fact that I have my partner in crime, Nancy, to interview you. But again, I just, when Nancy told me you were going to be a guest, and that was about 5 weeks ago, we couldn't let the cat out of the bag to our audience, but I've been counting the days until this day. So it's a real thrill to chat with you, and that's all I've got. So you guys can take it from here.
Well, no, don't go.
No.
Yeah. So I want to know so many things. First of all, I am very excited that someone is carrying the bop torch.
Thank you. Well, best I can.
Well, best any of us can. I mean, we are not living in that era, which it makes it difficult to absorb.
Yeah, especially particularly with bebop, it was so much about the lifestyle. It wasn't just the style of music; it was a way of living, and it stood for it was the rebelliousness that it drove these people to, anti big band, when jazz and big band music became a pop, it became just pop music, and then bebop was the, was the reaction.
The rebel music, yeah.
The intellectual music.
Yeah.
But so with nowadays, there's a great community and lifestyle in jazz, but it's so much of it is just people that we just respect and just pay so much respect to where we come from and the music that came before us, and just rather than it bebop was fresh and new. And I mean, you know what I'm saying? There's a different things. We can't replicate that. So.
Well, it's hard. It's hard all across the board to replicate a music that was born of a culture that we're not a part of, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm especially, I'm right during these times. I'm all very moved with the Black Lives Matter thing because I've made a life of an African American art form, you know, and I'm very close to this cause, and it's hard not to be right in it. I spent a lot of time in Philly in a black jazz club there, and I absorbed a lot from that environment. I called it my jazz school.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? It really was, because those cats got on the stage and they didn't have charts.
No.
There was no charts. There was no, you know, what can you...
When I was singing in gospel choirs, same thing, man. Like, no one, a lot of people who were the musical directors, some of them didn't even read music, but they were playing this hip.
They didn't know. Yeah.
Groove.
Yeah.
It's all about feel, the groove, you know.
Well, because it's born in the blues and it's born from the church and the gospel, and that's something that you just can't learn. You can't teach it. You've got to feel it. So in your case, you grew up very much like my daughter did. You grew up in a home with musicians.
Yeah.
See, Nance, I had a feling you might be going there. So
look at that beautiful.
Always
When
ready.
When was this, Veronica? Do you know the year?
I was like, I think I was 16.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, like about 10 years ago.
Yeah. Look at your beautiful mom and your dad. Of course, everyone knows both of them, and Hod O'Brien being one of the great jazz pianists to live and give.
Oh, I so enjoyed playing your dad's music and your mom's music.
Thanks, man. Special.
So,
would you properly pronounce your mother's last name?
Nakassian.
That's what we thought it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
We were thinking
So
Nakassian. Okay, gotcha.
I'm sorry, Eric. So you grew up with someone practicing all the time.
Oh, yes. Particularly Dad. I mean, you know, he, in the morning when I'd get up, get ready for school, he was on that synthesizer. Sometimes I wouldn't even hear him. You know, in the morning he would use a synthesizer not to wake us. And so like I'd come in and I'd hear him like
the grunting. Yeah.
But no, I heard him playing all the time, and I was my parents weren't like dragging me around to gigs, like, you know, like I had a childhood. I went to normal school and all that.
I was going to ask you about that. Tell us about it.
No, I went to public school, and my grandparents took care of me when my parents were on the road. But I did go on the road a fair bit with my parents, and they took me with them. And you know, I was always like the kid I had someone watching over me at the bar, and I was sitting with a coloring book and a Shirley Temple at you know, at the end of the bar, and they're playing these tunes, and I'm not really like, I never actively listened to them, of course, until I was much older. But it's like more like an osmosis kind of thing. I was just, you know, I was processing what they were doing, and kind of in what's the word? Not inadvertently, but like subconsciously.
Yeah. Subconsciously, it was sinking in. It was sinking in. And it's funny, when you're a kid too, you don't want to do what your parents do. Like, you just don't. You want to go, want to run.
My rebellious, like when I was a kid, I was obsessed with classical music and opera. And I was, you know, I didn't really sing jazz until when I was 9 years old. My mom went to a music educators conference, and she met this guy named Dave Adams, who led this group called the Young Rascals Jazz Project. And he needed a singer, and he met my mom. He said, "Do you have a kid who plays music?" And she's like, "Well, my daughter likes to sing in choir, but she's not like into jazz." But he's like, "Well, she wants to come by for an audition." And the audition song was Twisted, of course.
Ooh, that's a big undertaking for a young one.
Well, that's what I heard when I was 9. Whenever I heard people say, "Well, this is very hard," of course, I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna do it." I love a challenge. I always love to like prove people wrong, or, you know, like, and so, I learned Twisted, and I got in, and that's when I really started actually singing jazz. and being like, you know, learning the songs, learning repertoire. That, of course, that was appropriate for the age. But before that, it was all classical music. That's all and still to this day, I probably listen to more classical music than I do jazz.
Isn't that interesting? You talk about you studied classical voice?
Well, I studied classical piano as a kid, and I played some trumpet, classical trumpet. I was singing in choir. I don't think a kid should really be trained in this as a singer until 15 or 16, because the voice is not developed
I agree
enough.
Completely.
And you can develop some bad habits early. I think choir singing is important. So that's what I was doing. And then by the time I was already singing jazz professionally, then 15, 16, I started taking like opera training, like, you know, proper.
So you got some good technique and stuff. I did something very similar. I was singing, we're going to talk about rock and roll because we both have a heart in rock and roll too. But I was losing my voice. You know, I didn't have any training, and I was, you know, fronting a band, and I was really losing my voice. And I went to the Eastman School for just 2 semesters, and she was the one that straightened me out with, you know, proper vowel placement and proper breathing and all these things. But then she said to me, I got to let you go because I'm going to ruin you. In other words, if she kept instilling that classical discipline on me, I would not be able to keep my ability to be a stylist. Although I do feel differently about that now, because I think people can do both. I really think they can do both. But
I mean, I hear people, Renee Fleming, for example, she sings killing standards, and it's almost unrecognizable at times.
And she goes down into speaking voice without any trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
Without any trouble, which is, for most classical people, that's a real challenge. That's like a big challenge. More tea.
Yeah. Bye, Matt. Bye. He says bye.
Bye-bye,
Take
Matt.
care, Matt. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually met Natalie Dessay a couple of times, who was my hero as a kid, the French soprano. And the last year I went to Paris a bunch, and I met her at 2 of my shows. Well, I was guesting on one of them, but yeah, she came to my other one at Duc de Lombard, and I'm, oh my God, like just seeing her in the audience, I couldn't.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get starstruck.
Did you get a little verklempt like?
I did. I didn't expect it, because I don't get that way, especially when I'm on stage. I don't get nervous. Never get nervous. But I saw her and I just froze, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like the amount of respect I have for her, and like I listened to her for so many years.
Yeah.
And she's a big jazz fan.
We all have those moments where there's somebody where we might see that we've always known about and respected, and there's just that there is that moment of being starstruck. And so I imagine that seeing Natalie that night in Paris is a night that is going to stick with you forever.
And I think, I'm going to see her again once this all opens up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine that you know, you're somebody who has already done quite a bit of traveling, and I'm sure there's many more cities around the world that you'd love to visit and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I just started my Europe journey last year, and this year I was really supposed to start like blowing up over there in terms of like gigs. I'd never really played too many European gigs except Umbria and Duc de Lombard and a couple other smaller ones. But, you know, I was supposed to like do a bunch this year, especially. I did Pheasantry in London as a guest, but I was supposed to do Pizza Express and, you know, like all these Germany, Portugal, Spain. I was supposed to do all this stuff this year. Oh,
it's so heartbreaking. How are you doing with this? I mean, you are someone who you're young and you're so spirited. You know, I'm not unhappy sitting home, because I've been doing this for 50 years. It's like, you know, I don't mind as much. But what is this like for you? Is this difficult? Do you find yourself getting a little stir crazy to be on stage and do your thing? And
I mean, I'm really grateful to have the time, because when I'm on the road, that's time I don't have to record the Vera Icon stuff, the rock and roll opera, or I don't have the time to make my film for the screenplay I've written. I mean, I do all these other things that when I'm touring, there's just no time to do that stuff. And for a couple of years I know like I'm building my career and I'm doing putting in the time, paying my dues now. But I really needed some more creative space. And that's what I have. And I am working with a independent film group back in Charlottesville, where I'm from, a Virginia group. And we've been making this film that I wrote, and which was one of my dreams. And so we've been doing that, been going down to Florida a couple times that's where my studio for my rock and roll stuff is. And I've been busy, you know, I haven't been playing gigs, but I honestly, and I miss it, but I'm not focusing on it. I'm trying to make, what is it? Make hay while.
Yeah. What is it, Eric? Come on.
Yeah, no, she's right. Make hay. She's got it.
Make hay while the sun shines.
There we go. See,
but the sun isn't shining, but we can say, you know, and it's nice, but you're creating. So you're dipping into that pool. You're using your emotional energy and your spiritual energy and all these things that are all a part. Doesn't matter how we manifest it. Doesn't matter if we manifest it in song or the creation of.
It's all storytelling.
It is all storytelling, and it's all.
Yeah. And I've also been really blessed because I just finished a new record back in November. And so really the work that's left to do on the record is stuff that people can do remotely. So actually things have been in motion for Veronica Swift, you know. We have a new record coming out in March, and this year we've been focusing on branding it and marketing and the photo shoots and the music videos. So there's a lot in the works too.
Yeah, and that next record will be on Mac Avenue as well.
Yes, correct. It'll be called This Bitter Earth.
This
Bitter Earth. Ooh. Now there's a story, Nancy, behind. There's a connection between that song and Veronica going back to the Thelonious Monk competition in 2015, where you were, I believe, supposed to do. Yeah, see, Nancy's smiling, but she's like, "Oh, here's the journalist in me coming." But you were supposed to. What was that?
You did your homework.
I did my homework, and
I made him do his homework.
And you were originally scheduled to sing one song, and then there was unfortunately a terrorist attack in
Paris.
Paris.
The shootings, yeah.
The shooting, yes. I mean, there sadly have been so many of these over the course of the last many years that it's sometimes it's hard to pinpoint which one. But as a result, you wound up changing the song that
I was going to
sing
"Darn That Dream."
Right.
But then the day of, my mom showed me This Bitter Earth, and I was like, "Mom, I want to do this song today." And so I sang it, rehearsed it once.
Wow.
That is the thing about you. Because I sing and I watch you and I go, my God, your capacity to learn things and the way that you are able to memorize all these lyrics is it's just astounding, Veronica.
Thank you. I mean, I know that sometimes we all have certain things that we have to work harder at because we've been given a certain skill set from whatever force out there. Some people can look at a credit card and memorize the numbers on the credit card in 1 second. For me, I can hear a song once, sometimes if it's more complex twice, and I got it.
A lot of that, though, I'm sure has to do with that whole osmosis thing that was going on.
I wonder.
I think that being exposed, I mean, your mother, a wonderful singer in her own right, for sure.
Yeah.
And just being exposed to all that at such a young age, it almost instills a discipline, if you will.
Sure.
I'm sure. Do you play piano as well?
Yeah. I was classically trained. I mean, I couldn't sit down and play Liszt for you right now, but I could probably get out of my Joplin chops and my Debussy. There's a couple of things I remember and some Bach, but I try to keep my chops up. Also, it's good for your reading chops. I do play, and I actually compose at the piano as well. I love that you can just hear the whole orchestra at your hands, all your fingers.
It's true. It's
do you
true.
do you ever still listen to the Bach piece that your mom used to put on for you to
The
kind of?
harpsichord concerto, of course.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do 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 do. I love that piece. I was obsessed with that as a kid.
And you fell asleep to that like every night, right? That was something.
Yeah, I mean, like I guess I just listened to the whole thing and then fell asleep because I couldn't go to sleep. It was like, I was jamming.
Yeah, right. It's like the gears start going, and you're like, well, this is not going to work. I love to. I say all the time, I don't have a good piano, and without a good, I've got these electric things, and I have a Yamaha over here that I just soon throw in the lake. If you don't, it's like the right instrument is so inspirational. And I think times, especially right now during this pandemic, I think I'd love to get my hands back together. As braggy, I was in college entrance at age 13, classical piano.
That's right.
I had my own little thing going, and then the damn Beatles came out, and I wanted to be a Beatle. So, that all went down the drain, and I picked up guitar, and my mother had a fit, because I have been so trained.
My mom was trained as well classically in piano. She was taking lessons from Juilliard professor as a kid, and she could have been on track to be a professional concert pianist, but of course she was also a math whiz, and so she went down the banking route until she met my dad, and then of course fell in love with the music and the man, and became a jazz singer. Quit her job on Wall Street.
God, you gotta love that story.
That's a story too for the ages right there. I mean, you don't hear stories like that. You see these La La Land movies where people fall in love with the guy who has the money, right? But my mom's the one who fell in love with the pianist, and she became a jazz singer,
My mom did the same thing. She thought, although she didn't quit her job as a teacher, but she, she also fell in love with a pianist, and 57 years later, they're still married. So.
But Nancy, it was actually, you were saying with the right instrument, and I have a story for you. My mother's, so the piano that my grandfather bought for her when she was a kid was a Steinway B grand piano, 1962, I think. This is before Columbia.
CBS.
Yeah, right.
Very important.
Very important. And this piano, I mean, it had ivory keys, which of course had to be replaced when we had a house fire, but check this out. So I learned to play on this piano. It was the piano I also learned to play on. It was my grandfather's house. 2012, I went to college and the house burnt down. A fire started in the wall next to the piano, but crept up into the ceilings and the roof, and the whole second floor exploded. When the firemen got here, they got the piano out. They said, we want to get that piano out of there. And they got it out with only slight water damage. Didn't have any fire damage.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So that thing, you guys still have that instrument?
And we got it just like touched up, and they replaced the keys and replaced some other little things here and there. But the main core of the piano is still intact and in good condition. And so it's sitting in my mom's house and we play it all the time. And it sounds the same. It's beautiful Steinway grand from 1962. The touch on that thing.
Did your dad play that on that piano as well?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Oh boy.
So it's that piano is it's like a miracle piano.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, just considering, what it survived. Wow.
And that's the thing that survived the fire. Nothing else.
Just the piano.
Pretty much. Like everything else was charred and,
Yeah.
Well, we're lucky that you guys were all right through that. That's
nobody was in the house when that happened. Thank God.
That's a horrifying experience.
Yeah.
I don't know.
For anybody who might just be joining us, just want to let people know we are chatting with just the incredibly talented young vocalist, a mere 26 years of age, Veronica Swift. And we are thrilled to have Veronica with us. And I know that in a few moments, Nance, hopefully we're going to maybe hear a little bit more of Veronica. I know you've got something queued up. I just wanted to kind of just for 1 second go back to your love of opera. I know we've talked. Opera has been brought up on a number of occasions already, and it will again before the end of the show. But I know that you began formal training in opera studies with somebody who, I guess, played a very important role in your life, a guy named John Carden.
John Carden. Yeah.
And yes, I do my homework. I just wanted to hear you talk glowingly, I'm sure you will, about the impression John has had on your life.
John is a dear family friend. I mean, when I met him, he was cutting hair in Charlottesville. He was well known as a countertenor, and he performed with Kathleen Battle, and he's done that. And he then realized, just like my mom with banking, that it just wasn't for him, and he wanted to do what was right to his heart. And so he moved to Charlottesville, started cutting hair, and he took jazz lessons from my mother because he loved jazz music. And then in turn, like, he would give me classical lessons. And he was just one of the most, because in my life, I meet so many people that understand one part of what I am, right? Well, luckily, I'm lucky now to say that I know many people that see the whole person. Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. Yep. That see the whole person. That's becoming more and more common, which is great. But back then, I had all these different passions, right? Who doesn't? And John was able to see and embrace all of those parts and just address me as the whole, and not just a lot of classical teachers I had were just so, okay, that's great, but we're going to do this. And which was fine too. It's just different approach. But John was he understood where I was coming from, and he was so like my parents were just so supportive, and so he made me, because I'm very self-conscious and very perfectionist. Right. If it's not a certain way, then I think I suck, Yeah. And he just made me feel like I actually had, because I was, as a classical singer, I was so, self-conscious, and he just made me feel like I could do anything.
He boosted your confidence like this much.
Eric, do you know what a countertenor is?
Veronica mentioned the term countertenor, and I nodded my head, but then I was going to say, Nancy, what exactly is a countertenor?
I actually have a student that's a countertenor. It's a very, very high range. They start their low note. Their lows are around maybe an E3.
Okay.
Way up. I mean, their comfort zone, their money zone, as we say on Broadway.
Okay.
Their money zone is right where both Veronica and I are, right in the same area.
Female range.
Female range. It's astounding. I have a student who has this voice, and it's just astounding.
Back in the day, the countertenors would, back in the day, hundreds of years ago, if you were a countertenor, they called them castrati.
Oh, yes.
And of course, you know what that means, right?
Did you figure that one out?
Yeah, I did. I know words that start with CASTRAT. Yeah.
We don't want to say it out loud.
No, I wasn't going there. My voice might start going higher.
when you hear a real countertenor, it's like, I mean, it's not for everyone, but I just like, it's the same thing when I hear a woman who sounds like a man and sings in that range. It's just like, wow, it's like, I've never heard
about little Jimmy Scott? He was like a countertenor, right? But I mean, his was something he was born with. That was not, he was little all over the place. Like, that was his thing, Was he,
Nancy? Was he? Tell us more.
Well, I don't know about that firsthand. I'd have to ask his wife.
You can always count on me for the dirty jokes.
Go ahead, rip it up, girl. That's what we're here for. Relax, have fun. This is just fun, just good stuff. So that's one thing I wanted to ask you. Oh, by the way, someday I have to scat with you. I can't hold a candle to your scatting, but I'm telling you, I would love to get back and forth with you on some scat.
I was thinking that the last time I saw you at Birdland Theater downstairs, I just came and checked out your set, and I was like, damn, I'd really like to scat with her.
Yeah. You tell me about I'm going to play a video, but I want to hear about your scatting. I want to hear about, so were you able to log into that before you went to college and got more of the progression and all the theory and all that stuff? I mean, you just hear changes. You hear changes like no one I have ever heard in my life. You just hear you go through them like it's, you know. I wonder sometimes if you're going to get bored with it because you're so good at it.
Well, I mean, it's just like speaking another language.
Yeah.
I don't get tired of speaking English. I mean, it's like a native language, right? So it feels like a native language in some ways, but I'm always working on my grammar, right? Like the sophistication of the vocabulary, obtaining new ways to say things in a much more elegant, eloquent way,
yeah.
Right? We do that with English, so it's the same kind of concept. You know, the chord change, like understanding chord changes. I wasn't really, like, when I was a kid, I was hearing them and not knowing. I couldn't tell you if, you know, I couldn't listen to a song and tell you what the chord progression was, but I could sing it. And I wasn't able to like make that connection between ears and my brain until like junior year of college. For some, even though, like, you give me like a D-7 and I could, if you play it on, I could sing every note of the chord, but for some reason my brain wasn't making the connection until junior year of college. But I'll tell you, I really kickstarted my scatting was when I was practicing soloing on trumpet. I was practicing around the circle of fourths and fifths and hearing, making the connections between like intervals and the interval relationships and changing tonalities. Just training my ear at that was through playing trumpet and practicing soloing on trumpet. And I noticed, well, I'm able to sing everything that I'm trying to play on the trumpet, and this isn't happening. So why don't I just sing it then?
That happened to me in a weird way with piano. Or I was, the things I was thinking couldn't come out of my hands anymore, and I kind of let piano go because of that, you know. But I'm pretty much at a place where things I think I can make come out of this horn, you know.
Yeah, right.
Pretty much, especially if I'm not, if I'm really relaxed. But unlike you, I struggle with stage fright.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so does Barbara Streisand.
She's worse than anyone out there.
Yeah.
I understand. I've heard tales that she actually gets sick to her stomach.
She does.
So bad. Yeah, I have that too, and I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but I'm not going to go into that discussion. We'll go into that privately sometime.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I would say that I tell all the young vocalists that I talk to and ask for advice, I say you got to play an instrument, piano or a wind instrument, right? Like a horn or that'll help. I mean, my playing trumpet and marching in DCI like just got my core so on point. And
yeah, we have that in common. I played clarinet. I wanted to play sax, but they ran out of them at school, and I had so I took the clarinet, you know, and it changes your life. But I'm, you know, piano, clarinet, we're all like into that, you know. It's like, and I tell all my students, please play piano, please learn piano.
You have to. I mean, that's necessary, I think.
I'm going to show you off.
You don't have to play. You don't have to be able to comp yourself like, you know, Tommy Flanagan, but you should know how to play the piano.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I can play enough. I can read through a chart. Not great. I can't really accompany myself, but I can read through a chart and I know what they are, you know. I don't nearly have the knowledge you do. I'm an old school singer. I learned it on the bandstand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
I'm old school. There's not many of us left. Maybe Mary Stallings is one. I mean, there's not a lot of us left. Do you like Mary?
I love Mary.
Thank you.
We met on the jazz cruise a couple years back, and she was playing with Emmett, you know, my trio that I play with, and they were playing with Mary, and they introduced me to her, and Mary came to my, like, oh man, I'll tell you, on the jazz cruise, it was so special to have all the singers who were on the jazz cruise, like people I respected, Darman Meader, Kim Nazarian, who of course I'd known them for as a kid, but to see them, like I feel like a lot of these older singers used to see me as just a little kid, but then on the jazz cruise, they all came to my show, and Surreal would come to my show, and Mary and all these people I respected and listened to coming up, and it just made me feel like I'm one of the gang, you know?
Yeah.
That was to be like welcomed into that echelon. That was a special moment, seeing, you know, Darren Meter especially. I'm like, God.
Oh, he gets his ass off, man. Oh my God.
Peter Eldridge, you know, Kim.
Yep.
I love all those guys.
Yeah, they're great. And not only are they great musicians, they're great people.
They are.
Okay.
Kim,
Don't you find that
fellow Armenian.
Oh,
The Cassian, my mom, you know.
wonderful. Don't you find that the people that are really virtuoso at what they do are also great people?
Well, nowadays, yes. I feel like it's a different time too. Like nowadays, it's much harder to get ahead if you're a dick.
Very true.
Well, because there's someone to replace you in a heartbeat.
There's always going to be someone, and we are in this time that is so, for better or for worse, so PC and so like everyone's walking on eggshells, not trying to offend anybody, which I think can be a disservice sometimes, because some of the great jazz musicians had these big rivalries, you know, and that's kind of also important to like the ecosystem. But I'm glad to see that everyone I've ever worked with, especially Jazz Lincoln Center, there is not a bad egg in that group.
I imagine not. I remember Nicholas Payton getting on Facebook and raising hell once in a while, though. But
that's true. But yeah, I know there's. I mean, yeah, he's got. I mean, he's not just. He's like a philosopher in a way, you know. So he's studied and he's observed, and he has every right to, you know, like his opinions are formulated and well thought out, and it's not just like, you know, he's not someone that just spews out random shit, you know.
Yeah. Oh no.
I respect him.
Do you see who we have up there?
Well, of course, you mentioned Jazz at Lincoln Center. What a beautiful photo of yourself and Mr. Wynton Marsalis.
Best kids in my life.
Now
that
you
had to be the biggest thrill of all, playing there with all of them. And
but that was the same thing I was telling you about with Darman and Mary Stallings coming to hear me. Like, they just made me feel like I was one of the gang, and that's exactly what I felt that week. You know, I had toured with Jazz Lincoln Center Orchestra and hung out and been one of the gang, but I was singing like Christmas tunes. You know, this was a serious bebop gig.
Yeah, you were getting your butt off on this
with
show.
The quintet, you know, and like this is a big deal. And I was so nervous isn't the right word, but I was so apprehensive about trying to be humble and respectful, but also like I wanted to bring it, man. And I didn't even have to, like, Wynton was being he was so cool, and I didn't have to worry about either of those, you know, things. I just had to be myself, and then.
And I love the fact that you said, obviously it's Wynton gets top billing, but you mentioned the fact that every single one of those guys are, I mean, not only top musicians, but they're all good people too, and they all just made you feel like one of the group.
Walter and I have had so many funny nights. Like, he is so funny, and when I was in China, he was there the last time I went, and he was just the best liaison, the best trip guide. And of course, Dan and Carlos, that we're like three peas in a pod.
Dan Nimmer and Carlos
we're raising hell all over the place.
Boy, it's a good thing you and I did. It's a good thing I'm a lot older than you, because if we had met, we'd get in a lot of trouble.
We still could.
That's a big possibility. As you notice, I am having a glass of wine.
I had spiked tea.
My girl.
Gosh, I'm the only one drinking water.
That's okay. You're not you have to be a jazz musician by osmosis somehow, I guess.
Yeah.
That's a life. I mean, that goes back to what we were talking about. It is a life. It is a lifestyle. And we have to be careful, because I can admit that I went through some years where some things happened that probably shouldn't have happened, you know. And it's but it was the 80s.
Very different time. Yeah. And I feel like in the 80s and 90s, especially singers had such a pressure to brand themselves as one thing, and whatever that thing was. I mean, and nowadays, like I just see it, that was a disadvantage to people like my mom and people like you, and who could just do all these different things. And I just see now, especially with the jazz singers who are out there doing it, like Cecile and Surreal, they do all these different kinds of genres, and they mix them in a way that isn't compromising integrity. You know, Cecile's coming from opera as well, and she's also, she and I have talked, and she's also a fan of Alice in Chains and some rock, but she's like, her influences are all over the place.
Yeah.
But it's like my favorite artists, and from the past or present, are people that, you know, when you hear it, it's not like defined by the genre. It's like Nina Simone, for example. Same thing. She was all these things, but what was she? You know when you hear it, it's Nina Simone.
That's right.
But the focus, I think, in the important part here is that the focus is coming from the same place, which is story. If you come from story, you're gonna sell it, and it's gonna be believable. I have an incredibly diverse background, and I still love all that stuff. Absolutely. I love it. But jazz gives me, it creates the most challenge for me. Mm-hmm. You know, that's why I was drawn. It's kind of why I moved out of other types of music, was I wanted to be challenged. I wanted more intellectual stimulation, you know.
Yeah, I explain it to people, how I was telling this to, I was on a chat with Bill Charlap and Roland the other night, that jazz is literally and figuratively my family. The relationship I have with jazz music is one that's grounding, and it's rooted in tradition. It's rooted in my upbringing, quite literally. And it will always be there no matter what. I may go this way, I may go that, but I always come back to it.
I was going to ask you about that.
And then rock and roll and opera are the passionate love affairs, right? The fiery romance where it's up and down, it's here and there, and it's dramatic. Very different relationships.
Sarah Vaughan was a huge opera fan.
Of course, she hated being called a jazz singer. I mean, she wanted to be revered as a vocalist. And when she was on, what was it, the Carson Show or something, she sang Ave Maria. Everyone was expecting her to sing like My Funny Valentine or some shit.
Yeah, right.
Did she really? I never knew. I'm gonna have to look up that.
I gotta look that up.
Yeah, Ave Maria.
Yeah, she loved it.
She didn't like the label of jazz singer, Sarah Vaughan, huh?
I didn't know that. That's new to me. That's new to me. But you know, she controlled her vibrato. It's one of the things I show my students a lot of her videos, like, because when we get talking about vibrato, which is something you understand, because when you're in classical voice, I mean, vibrato is the natural state of relaxation. I mean, that's a healthy thing to have happening. But in jazz, we control it. We don't let it come everywhere, which is more stressful for the instrument, actually, you know, to hold tones, you know, and do that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Sarah was a master at this, at where she decided, and how she would use chest tones and those, she'd use those totally open, big, huge sounds that just,
and you feel it.
She colored with sound better than any singer I've ever heard. I've never heard.
I will 100% agree on that.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm a fan of Carmen. Who are the singers that you feel the most connection to?
Ethel Waters, Dinah Washington, Anita O'Day.
You're an Anita O'Day girl, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think also just because of her vibe, she was like one of the guys, you know, and that's how I've always been. I grew up with men around all the time. I was one of the guys. I was the only girl so much, and June Christie.
We hear all the dirty jokes. We hear everything.
Yeah, of course.
We hear them. Wait a minute, I want to tell you a funny story. Wait. So I was on the bandstand one night, and the sax player was watching this chick dance, and he says, the other guy goes, "Man, I'd like to see her get ugly." I said, "Whoa, I don't want to hear."
Hey, and when they're saying that shit around you, that's the compliment.
Well, it is. I mean, but I've always been someone to trust. I don't take their stuff elsewhere. You know what I mean? I want to get along with them.
Dish it. You gotta dish it too. You gotta, yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, I don't have any.
I bet you Veronica can dish it. You know.
Oh yeah.
Well, but it's like when I'm kind of socially awkward sometimes, and then sometimes I'm the one like tearing the Mickey out of everybody, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get on a roll comically, and you just. I'll tell you what, I vibe so well with the Brits and the Aussies.
I've never been to. Right before COVID, we were planning a little European thing, and of course, like you, of course, I don't do the wonderful things that you have the opportunity to do, but it was a big deal, and I feel really bad. It's gone. It's gone
For now.
For now.
I don't know. I don't even know when. When is this going to give in for us? Who knows?
Well, I've had a couple gigs in Europe. I've been lucky enough to be working with New Generation Festival. It's a group of young promoters and presenters, and they've been putting on shows in Italy and London all summer. Just last month, I was in Florence, and we performed for 500 people. Full orchestra gig. It was incredible. I was tapping, I was singing opera. I mean, these people are at the forefront for bringing this music to the people again. And
what they went through there, did you say Italy?
Yeah.
My God, they really went through it with the COVID.
Yeah.
And they're doing all right now, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, you know, over there, they've been hunkering down and doing what they had to do, because people in Europe understand the value of live art and culture and music, the value of that on the human spirit. And it's something so important to them. Like, I feel that they do what you have to do to get this eradicated and get out there again. When you know,
I know it. Doesn't that change though? When I say to so many of my musician friends, once you have sung somewhere where art is regarded highly, it changes you forever. Like you know, that's why we're both lucky. I mean, you've got your home there at Birdland, and that is a great place. I mean, people that come there, they're digging it. They're really digging it.
And sometimes people who come there, I mean, Johnny has
they're all they're European, most of them.
And Asian. And Johnny does such a good job of advertising and reaching out to, you know, like there are people who've never heard jazz that come into Birdland, you know,
right.
And there are people who are jazz aficionados, and there are all kinds of theater buffs, and, you know, the tourist thing. I mean, he's got all the people there. That's why I like Birdland. It doesn't have even though it's a prestigious club, it doesn't have that air of like jazz snobbery about it.
Absolutely.
Which I like sometimes too. Sometimes I like to go to Vanguard and like, oh, this is where all the cats come. You know, this is the spot. This is the place, right? Yeah. But then Birdland that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, if you want to feel connected to the rest of the world, people that don't know anything about jazz, sometimes, that's the place.
Well, they call it the jazz corner of the world.
The jazz corner of the world. Yeah.
Do you ever have people come up to you and say, "Gosh, I never liked jazz until I heard you"?
And I say, "Well, I hate to break it to you, but you know, you like jazz now."
I mean, I get a kick when people say that to me, because I never liked it till I heard you. I'm like, oh, well, that's a compliment.
Hey, should we hear?
I want to play something, because I want to show everybody how fabulous you are at scatting. I just go, oh my God, let me see if I can find this. So this video, let me get it up here. This was probably some time ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And on the piano is my friend John DiMartino, and it looks like Vince on drums. I don't know the bass player.
Patrick O'Brien.
Where was this? Was this
Birdland? Yeah, this was like right when I started working there.
Some get a kick from champagne. Mere alcohol doesn't thrill me at all. So tell me, how could it be true that I get a kick out of you? I get no kick from cocaine. I'm sure that if I took even one sniff, it'd bore me terrifically too. Yet I get a kick out of you. I get a kick every time I see you standing there before me. I get a kick, though it's clear to see you obviously don't adore me. I get no kick in a plane, flying too high with some guy in the sky. Is my idea of nothing to do. Yet I get a kick out of you.
I sound so much better than that now.
No, I know the feeling.
You know, in your 20s, man, in your 20s, like, if you're working on, the stuff that you're working on, a year is like all the world of difference. It's crazy. I'm like so much more into using like space, and like I'm listening to the trio more. Like I'm hearing John playing something. I could have played off on that. Why didn't I do that?
Yeah, but you know what's fun is every time I hear that, I hear you. You did the half step change. You did that little modulation, and he didn't pick up on it.
Yeah.
Da boo da ba boo ba. That one.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, thanks.
So no disrespect to Mr. John DiMartino, who is going, that we should mention, he will be our guest next week. In fact.
Yes,
Oh,
he
you
will.
will? Oh, I'm gonna watch that.
Please, you
Yeah.
gotta join us for that. But no disrespect to John, but the pianist, and John is obviously fantastic. But when you were looking for an accompanist, what led you to my cousin Emmett? No, actually, we're not related. Not all Cohens are related, but when you certain vocalists need to find that accompanist that where they just know, like, this is the guy that is the yin to my yang. What
Yeah, how did that come about?
how did that relationship with Emmett Cohen?
I've known Emmett for a long time. I mean, when I was in college at 18, he had just graduated UM, so I came into UM and I met him during the audition week. And every time I'd come up to New York, he would, kind of groom doesn't sound right, because then it makes him seem like a Svengali type, and he wasn't. That's not the relationship. He was a friend just like Evan Sherman, Scott Lowry, Aaron Johnson, all these guys that introduced me to the musicians that I play with. They took me all around to the jazz clubs where they were, because they are on the scene, and I wanted to be on the scene, but I wasn't ready for New York yet. Had some shit to do down in Miami. But Emmett and the guys up here would, I'd go to the jam sessions where they were playing. They'd take me to go hear like Ron Carter, because Emmett was, starting his Jazz Legends series with Ron Carter and Judy and Jimmy and Benny Golson. And I was meeting these guys through Emmett, because he knew he was a fan of my dad's. He liked my dad's playing, and it's just your people, your tribe, and
yes, I love the use of that word in that context.
Yeah,
absolutely. But
and it's like, when it comes to the yin and my yang, like especially personality wise, like he's got this very go get 'em attitude, and like he knows how to make things happen.
He can match your energy, and I haven't heard you. He matches your energy as good as anyone I've heard.
I'm not the kind of person to like go get him. Like I'm shy. I'm very much an introvert especially when it comes to like I don't ask for things. I don't go out and ask, hey, can I be in your show? And so between the two of us, Emmett keeps me that way. And I also can reel him in and dial him back a little sometimes if he's too much. Just that's where we
are very lucky. I would love to be able to.
And I did read in an interview that you did, again, part of the homework I always do for my guests, where you would mention that if you're going to sing with an accompanist, you're going to make sure that they know rubato, which I guess is one of the hardest things for an accompanist? I'm sure Nancy can relate to that as well.
Well, then, first of all, we're talking about accompanists. It should be noted that a great jazz player doesn't mean he's a great accompanist, that he can work with a singer. And that's nothing, there's no right or wrong there. There's just some cats that understand how to listen and lay in between the spaces, lead, pull, push, like all these little things that need to go on. It's a reaction, it's a give and take. And you have to be a certain kind of personality to do that. And I think Emmett embraces both of those things. He's a monster jazz player, but he also is willing to be a part and one with what's going on vocally, and that's really special. It's a great thing.
And I like, but he's told me before that, like, by playing with me, he's starting to pay more attention to the lyric and
hello.
Of course, that what a concept, right?
Yeah.
No, but so many young musicians fail to see the importance of that, and not to be all, preachy or anything, but that is a very important part. Like Ben Webster.
I will tell you for a fact that the great players not only know the melody, they know the lyric, they know the story. They're playing the story.
Yeah.
I mean, when you hear Dexter Gordon, what do you think you're hearing? He knows.
Yeah.
He knows.
I remember there's that story, I think it was Ben Webster, where he was it Ben Webster, where he was playing and he's soloing, and then he just stops soloing in the middle of the tune, and someone says, "Hey, what's up? What gives, Ben?" And he goes, "I forgot the lyrics."
Hello. Hello. Yeah. So sometimes I don't hear a lot of this in some of the singers that are coming out today. I don't hear a lot of this connection to the lyric, and to the story, And I feel like you're coming around to a place where you're getting very connected to it. I loved your comment about space, because
just as important, if not more important.
Space is where God is, and that's all there is to it. And you better let that in. You better
And of course, when you're young, and especially on bebop, like you're like, oh, I want to, show them what I got and do all this stuff. But that's part of your 20s. But I'm still 26, but the space is becoming more and more important.
But that's because of who you've worked with. That's because of the influences and the wonderful opportunities that have come along. For one reason or another, which I can't get into complaining about what things that happened in my life. I mean, I'm in upstate New York. I mean, it's not easy, to play with the cats.
Well, you're only a couple hours away, right?
I know, but I
want to live in upstate New York.
You can come anytime. I live up on the lake. It's gorgeous, and we could get in our own kind of trouble.
I just love that you didn't get sucked into the big city. The fact that you were came from Charlottesville, and you didn't want to be absorbed into all the distractions and all the craziness of New York City, and the fact that Virginia is still home for you.
Well, I think that has plays a huge part in. My parents were the most humble souls to walk the earth, man, and so much of I'm so connected to family and where I come from. I think that plays a huge part in me staying sane and grounded, because there is a misconception like that everything happened really quickly for me. Right when I moved to New York, I got Birdland, I got this, but I've been on the road, mind you, for like 10 years it wasn't like it happened overnight, but of course people were like waiting for me to graduate and move here so that I could start to get work in. And that's when things did explode, because it was like all this tension that was building up and momentum. And I needed to have the upbringing and background I had to stay, stay humble about everything and keep my eyes on what's important.
Absolutely.
It's I forgot what I was going to say. I had a moment. I had one of those moments.
Right.
I wanted to put a picture up. I wanted to put a beautiful picture up because we've talked. You and I share one thing in common, and that's Gianni. I've known him for 30, 40 years. He's had me at Birdland. He has been a supporter. He's a dear friend. And boy, he was a smart man when he decided to promote you, because we needed this. We needed you, and we're so grateful for what you're doing for
I'm
jazz
grateful for
singing.
him.
Yeah, but you're bringing it home, sister, and I'm really
Thanks.
really proud of you. I'm like, wow, you know, because
Mhm.
kids. No, what do you have young people come up and go, wow, what is this? Like, wow, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when they see a young person doing it.
Yeah, but I
You know,
mean,
that's not any offense to the great legends and the people like I look up to and aspire to be like, but I think that this music reaches the young crowd because they see young people playing it. There's such an energy about it that isn't jaded, that hasn't become this polished or whatever. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's still raw and like messy, and it's, you know, it's
thirsty,
sexy, it's
thirsty, yeah. Mm.
thirsty, and you know, that's what young people share that. So I think when they see young people playing this music, that's magic.
Well, that's why I would say you are you're holding such an important place in this. I mean, for all of us that have come before you, this is an important job you're doing because I can't go. I mean, you know, they see someone my age and they're not going to stand there and listen as much. You know, it's like,
I mean, it's unfortunate that's the way it is in
but
this
it is
world.
the way it is. It is,
And it's more so here. I mean, it's everywhere, but it's more so here than it is anywhere else. I would say, especially with like Japan, like that's a jazz. They're all fanatics over there, and they, if anything, they'll probably listen to the legends more than like the
yeah.
and their tradition, their culture. They respect the elderly people and people of authority much more than young people. So
I get my records are getting played more. I get those reports from Apple Music, and my records are just constantly getting played in Japan.
there you go. Yeah.
Constantly. Of course, I've been there. I've toured there 3 times. I mean, I get sad thinking, can I go back? Sometimes I dream about it. As if I tell people, I mean, once you've been there, you're not going to want to come back here.
That's how I felt about Italy.
Yeah.
Oh, I dream of that. You're so lucky.
And Nancy's heard me ask this question of vocalists before. We're getting a nice shower out here right now. But I guess I certainly wanted to ask you, as we're down to the last 15 minutes, but what's the biggest difference you see in performing for European, for an Italian audience as, say, performing in the States? I mean, do you notice, is there a different appreciation?
Well, yes. I mean, there's
of course, there's the language barrier, but that doesn't seem.
Yeah, well, I speak.
They know the lyrics, though.
They know, of course.
They know lyrics. I speak a little Italian as well, and so I connect to them on stage. I say, sono profondamente onorata di essere qui oggi. I speak to them, and they come. I think they when I speak Italian to them, their appreciation, of course, is like goes up. But I mean, the audience is America. I mean, it's not just like one. Depends on where you're talking about. If you're talking West Coast, Northeast, or Northeast, Pacific Northwest, Midwest, I mean, like it's like it may as well be different countries within our own country.
That's a great point. Yeah.
So true. Yeah, I love LA. I've always done really well in LA, and it's funny. I don't know whether LA is going to even be there in about 10 years. I don't know what's going on out there. It's very sad.
Well, the scene in LA is very spread out, and because the city's so big and it's impossible to get anywhere that isn't by car and sitting in 2 hours of traffic, people don't want to go out. After they work, it's like they have to drive 2 hours in traffic to a jazz club. No way.
Yeah, and it's a drag.
It's not like it is here. Everything's so close. Well, you can walk everywhere and subway. It's just a different thing.
Nance, I don't know. Were you going to share a picture?
I have a picture I want to share.
Okay, because I have one more that I'm going to share as well, but I'll let you share.
Because I want to talk to Ronnie about this.
Yeah, you call me Ronnie.
I love this.
Call her Ronnie. Aw.
There's Johnny and May.
Whoa. Marilyn May.
Marilyn May. Yeah, she's always been really lovely with me.
So this is the theater where I was when you were there. You look so beautiful, Ronnie. And look at Johnny. He's so handsome. Marilyn May, one of the leading stars of the cabaret style of singing. She's just a legend.
Yeah.
My question for you is, do you find yourself being drawn to this theater side of music?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's not like, it's always there. Even when I'm singing bebop, like that theater is there. I mean, that's where these songs came from. And
Yeah,
every time I learn a new tune, I'm obsessed with like finding the origins of the tune, who sang it first. And of course, like a lot of people will go to Frank Sinatra or Ella Fitzgerald to learn a tune. I go to Fred Astaire because these songs were written for him to sing by Irving Berlin, George Gershwin. These people wrote for him. And I'm like, I mean, I tap and I do theater as well. And the early 30s, early 20s music, all of that is so much part of what I do. And on my show, I even sing in that style a little bit. Like I'll do some novelty tunes from the 20s too.
You do. I came upstairs quite a bit and watched you on my breaks, and you were doing some wonderful things.
And it's a different style of singing, but you know, it fits if you can program
especially
it.
At Birdland, you know, especially at Birdland.
And Emmett plays the shit out of some stride. I mean, we program it well and it makes sense.
Well, another thing that I love about you dearly that you have in common with me is we both are very respectful of presentation and stage presence. Which is something you don't see as much anymore.
That's so much more than half of it, actually.
Well, it really is. I mean, because there's people that are not going to get. I mean, I can stand there. I know what you're doing. I get it. I know where you're going to go on the next note almost. You know what I mean? Because I've lived it. But this presentation and this respect to the bandstand, I can remember people criticizing me in the 80s, because that's what we were talking about earlier, in the 80s, because I was giving this kind of presentation.
It's different time too.
And they were saying, you're a lounge singer. I'm like, no, you know. But what I love is that it's working. It's really working with you, and you're bringing it. And I'm glad you're bringing it, because a lot of the singers are not so much doing that. From what
and like, I mean, everyone has their different thing, right? Like some people don't choose not to focus so much on it, but even then, that's stage presence. Like Miles Davis turned his back to the audience and didn't interact. That's his vibe. That's a persona up there. That is a stage.
I have many times when I don't look at them. I don't look at them because I want to get in. I want to get inside. I don't want to be outside with them.
Which is still a choice, stage presence choice. I mean, you know, whether you are aware of it or not, there is a presence up there. If you're on the stage, there is something you are emitting energy.
You and I read where you talk when you're on stage, essentially, and I think Nancy would agree with this. You are, in a way, you're an actor. I mean, like you could be having the shittiest day, but once you're on stage, you know, you can't let the audience know that up till that moment, man, I have had the day of days. You just kind of have to put on, you know, that stage persona. And I know Nancy has sung many a gig after she's had a pretty crappy day,
or a migraine,
or just feeling sick to your stomach. And then
isn't that the worst, when you have the migraines and you gotta sing?
My God. Now that I'm past all that part of my life, I don't get as many, but oh my
I'll
God.
have to put on sunglasses if I have a migraine. It's very rare. I've done it one time and like people were understanding of it. I couldn't. No, but even if like you're having the best day and you've just fallen in love with someone and you're just having this, and you have to sing something depressing. Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah. It goes both. That's true. It could go from high to low or low to high. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I do get it, definitely.
Yeah. Hey, you I love the way the music affects your body language. I talk to my students about this a lot. I said, your body language on stage should not be calculated. It should not be hi, like, or my heart, or like, you know, it should be a directly related to whatever you've just said. It should be a reaction to what you've just said.
You know what's helped me with that is dancing to find the comfort.
Yes.
Is I'm being a dancer, not a professional. I'm not like professional status, but I'm I love to do it, and knowing how to move does help with stage presence.
Oh yeah. Well, dancing is lyrical.
Yeah.
There's a story there. You know, there's truly a story.
Absolutely.
There, you know. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So another picture I want to put up, because this is another great little I did my work too, Ronnie.
The picture I have is going to be nothing like what Nancy shares, but go
What do
ahead.
you? Oh, I don't know. This is pretty cool. I want you to tell us about this. Was a brilliant marketing move on Gianni's part. This was very smart of him to do this because it got you to a young audience.
We have to get Johnny on the show at some point.
I don't know if he'd do that. Do we see this?
Me and Chris?
Oh, it's Chris. Yeah.
Yes. So
what do you mean, Johnny, marketing move? What are you talking about?
That was excellent. That was excellent for him to get you hooked up. Maybe he didn't.
Are you kidding me? I got myself that gig. He didn't do shit. I love Johnny, but he didn't do that.
You're giving him too much
credit for that. No, seriously. I love you, Johnny. If you're watching or someone who knows Johnny, I love you. But that's something he always takes credit. I was depressed and I just went out to the Django one night and my friend invited me and Chris just happened to walk in and I was scatting on a blues and I met Chris. I introduced myself. I said, hey man, like my parents are two jazz musicians and we got to talking and we went to a strip club afterwards and talked about, we went to the strip club. We were talking about Harry Warren and Anita O'Day while we got girls dancing on us. It was like, I was like, you can't make this up. Like,
it's the Great American Songbook and the Great American Strip Club, Nance. Come on.
I'm sorry for assuming that, Ronnie. I thought
no, it's fine. I know it's going to happen. It's bound to happen here and there occasionally.
Yeah, but I like your story much better. I like that's a way more romantic story, if you know what I mean. Way more.
And Benny Benack was with us too, and Matt Baker. He brought all of us to the club.
Oh, see, now I wish Matt was still there now. Get his account of that night too. You know.
Well, no matter how that happened, that was a brilliant thing because
it wasn't even a marketing move. It was just like I got along with him really well. We were like two peas in a pod. Similar opinions on music and artistry, and we just bonded so well. And he became a mentor to me. And I remember like my 25th birthday. Chris and Wynton both showed up to my gig at Mesro, and they were both there. And like to see them, I mean, that was like these two giants in this music have just been such mentors to me, and I've been truly blessed.
Well, you have. That's a fact.
You certainly have indeed. I wanted you in these final minutes. You mentioned it very briefly, I think, in the first part of our chat, and the time certainly has flown by. But if you could talk a little bit about this screenplay that you. It's not a musical film because I write musicals as well, but this is purely a Lifetime drama style. It's called Dear Old Stockholm, and despite the title, it has nothing to do with jazz. It's about Stockholm syndrome and the story of every time I do a jazz record, I like to pair it with another project that can be kind of related to it, maybe. Right. In some ways, like the thematic material of my next record, a lot of the songs touch on domestic abuse and being a woman in times of being faced with a highly masculine, misogynist culture. Although it's less and less now, it's not a whining record that takes an opinion on it. It's more just like presenting. Yeah. Here's.
But I think that's timely. I think it's timely. Yeah. It's timely because of what we're going through, and we won't go into that. But yeah,
sure, right.
There's a vibe going on that has rebirthed that in a way, So I think it's very timely, and I hope that you are.
And and I'm trying to like validate everyone's opinion, everyone like where they come from. There are women who actually prefer to stay in relationships like that, and their opinions need to be heard as well, just as much as the people trying to help them. But this particular film is about that. It's like kind of like the movie Secretary,
Oh right, yeah.
But James Spader, who's like, oh, he's my hero. Just the love that this person shares is one of complete submissive, like handing her soul and her body, but she holds his heart. She has the dominance in terms of his heart. He hasn't given it to anybody. It's a lot more related to art. Like, she's a writer and he's a fan and wants to build her confidence up as a writer by putting her in these situations that just break her down. Yeah. And he kidnaps her and they fall in love. And so that's what it's about.
It's not an uncommon scenario though. You know, I made several choices like that, which I had to work through and understand why did I allow this?
For me, it was like, why did I enjoy this? Why did I want that? And why is this appealing to me?
Well, this is a whole other show.
Yeah. I know it is. I know. I'm trying to keep it short, but it's impossible.
This is a whole. I told you. I said you will be surprised because we sometimes we have to go. It's 8:30.
But this won't take long, Veronica. It's on the tip of my tongue, and I can't think of it. Who played the female lead in Secretary?
Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Maggie Gyllenhaal. That's it. Thank you. I could have looked it up, but I said, okay, I knew Spader was in it, but yeah, Maggie Gyllenhaal.
And Spader's a jazz fan. I'm praying for the day that he comes to one of my shows. I'm just like,
Is he? James Spader's a jazz? I didn't know that.
Oh my God, he goes to the Vanguard all the time, man. He's a huge jazz fan.
Wow. Well, I'm
smart person.
Incredibly.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation too.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I tease sharing this picture, and I promise we're going to keep this to like 3 minutes or less so we can let Veronica enjoy the rest of her evening and wrap things up. But you know who else might be a jazz fan? I don't know whether or not he is or not, but I know that Veronica and maybe Nancy is a fan of this gentleman. Now, don't be scared, Nancy. But
yeah, we didn't get to talk about that enough.
But Veronica has a deep affection and a connection to the picture that we're looking at. For those who don't know, that is not a jazz singer. That is Marilyn Manson. And what's your connection to Marilyn and how you would like to maybe collaborate with him someday?
Well, it's a similar connection I have to like Freddie Mercury. He's just like these artists that define their own artistry and have just paved. They defied the genres that were set out for them to fall into. But Marilyn Manson is an intellectual, extremely, and despite what most people misunderstand, his use of the English language, his wordplay, and his symbolism, his use of metaphor is just like I've never seen a lyricist. He's more like a poet. Use the English language like he has, especially in that setting.
And his vehicle is this theater too that he's using. It's beautiful.
He's a theater. I mean, like, yeah, he is a theatrical. He's a master of using theater in his shows, and everything he does has purpose. There's nothing that is random or just shocking for the sake of being shocking. And Freddie was the same way. And I have my Marilyn Manson tattoo right here.
Oh,
when I met him, I got to hang out with him one night.
I noticed that tattoo at the beginning, and I didn't realize that it was a Manson tattoo.
Yeah, he uses that as a symbol. And I know a lot of my fans will not go that route. They'll say, well, we'll just, and that's cool. I can't expect everyone to like all the things I like, but the collaborator, I don't think he's a jazz fan per se, no. But he's not yet, but the collaboration I would want to have with him is with my rock music, which is a different persona altogether. It can't be the same thing. For me, they have to be separate because it's just such a departure.
Yeah, it really is.
And I know you do have designs on doing a Queen themed recording, right? At some point?
Well, no, that was just an idea I was throwing out there, but someone ran with it, I guess. I actually, there's one arrangement I do of You and the Night and Music that implements part of the song by Queen called Innuendo. Okay. And you know where it goes into the like the flamenco style guitar, we put that in You and the Night and Music, and use a bit of that song just in ways that it makes sense, but it's not sacrificing the integrity of Arthur Schwartz and Howard Dietz.
Right. Wow. Sky's the limit, Nance, for this young lady.
Oh my gosh, and I'm excited that she's not feeling caged in by anything. She just wants to do it all. And
She does. She does.
we're very excited for you.
The world is her oyster, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I just, as long as there's someone there to listen, I'll always be making music and hoping it reaches something.
Well, listen.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I hope that before too long, you could get back out. And I mean, I'm anxious. I mean, I've just lost a bunch of work just since this last thing that they did, But I happen to be I'm saying, people need, the reason we are where we are is because people need to stay cool at home, but.
Yeah, we needed to slow down and take a moment
we
to
did.
just
We
think
did.
about, we needed this.
And people can visit your website, veronicaswift.com. Some great videos on there, and people.
I'm pretty active on my Instagram, which is Veronica Swift Jazz.
Oh, good. Okay, fantastic. And listen, to coincide with the Marilyn Manson song "Beautiful People," you are a beautiful person.
Indeed.
Well, that lyric is a mockery on different use of the word, but
but you know the place I'm coming from. So.
I know, I appreciate that very much, Eric. It's been nice to meet you and get to know you a little bit.
Great to meet you as well, and gosh, what a wonderful Sunday evening, and just stay safe, and somehow we'll get through this very bizarre year of 2020 and get back to some type of normalcy, and wish you nothing but the best.
Hopefully in the fall, I'll see you over at Birdland.
I hope so, Nancy. I miss you.
I miss you too.
All right.
Take care, guys.
We all love you.
Yes.
Love you too. Thank you.
And don't forget to tune in next week for John DiMartino.
John DiMartino. I'm going to watch that.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye, Nance.